You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for June 24th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where a week is now 100 years long. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. Hello, Blue Gal.
Hello, Driftglass. You might remember that 1 week ago today. 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
We opened episode 909 with this. There were a lot of big stories this week fighting for all of our attention.
I know. Lots.
First of all, we have to start with Birthday Boy and his pathetic little antique tank party. Aw.
Yeah.
And also the hugely successful No Kings protests.
Yep.
Amazing. Horrific political assassinations in Minnesota. My God.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, Trump going full taco on mass deportations. This is not to make any of these equal to another.
Right.
It's just there's a lot vying for our attention.
Mm-hmm.
And the through line with all these stories was that each of them gave us a window into just how reprogrammable Republicans really are.
Yeah. Well, as you know by now, Donald Trump picked up the media Etch-a-Sketch, gave it a shake, and all those stories and so many others just vanished from the front page. Do you remember, for example, just a week ago, those creaking antique tanks that were rolling through Washington, D.C., and the piped-in music, and the troops walking sloppy just as a big fuck you to Donald Trump? Do you remember NBC reporter Mark Seagrave saying, quote, the Army hashtag 250 parade starting 30 minutes early due to incoming weather, crowd nowhere near the 200,000 expected, to which former GOP lawmaker Barbara Comstock said, Newsmax is saying about 10,000 here. That's small for some protest rallies today and a huge waste of our military money when the world is on fire, unquote. And do you remember the between 4 and 6 million of our fellow citizens hitting the streets for the No King Saturday, speaking as with one voice?
And that's a low estimate.
Yeah, that's a low estimate.
Yeah.
All of that evaporated almost instantly from the public square because Donald Trump bombed Iran. And why did he do that, Blue Gal?
Fox News and envy.
Yep.
Because he's a weak man.
Yes, he is.
Needs attention all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is from the New York fucking Times. Quote, Mr. Trump had spent the early months of his administration warning Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel against a strike on Iran. But by the morning of Friday, June 13th, hours after the first Israeli attacks, Mr. Trump had changed his tune. He marveled to advisors about what he said was a brilliant Israeli military operation, which involved a series of precision strikes that killed key figures in Iran's military leadership and blasted away strategic weapons sites. Mr. Trump took calls on his cell phone from reporters. I wonder where those reporters were from, Diffglass.
Mm-hmm.
And began hailing the operation as excellent and very successful, and hinting that he had much more to do with it than people realized.
Basically my plan.
It was all my plan.
I
my
planned
idea.
the whole thing. Yeah.
Later that day, Mr. Trump asked an ally how the Israeli strikes were playing. He said that everyone was telling him he needed to get more involved.
Mm-hmm.
The president was closely monitoring Fox News, which was airing wall-to-wall praise of Israel's military operation and featuring guests urging Mr. Trump to get more involved. Several Trump advisors lamented the fact that Tucker Carlson was no longer on Fox, which meant that Mr. Trump was not hearing much of the other side of the debate, unquote.
Yeah, not exactly a team of rivals over there, you
No.
know, that bringing in all points of view to listen to him.
No. Shorter from the Rolling Stone, quote, there is no intel. We
Jeez.
could have told you that.
Yeah.
Trump's attacks on Iran were based on, get this, vibes, sources say. Following Trump's attacks on Iran, an admin official tells Rolling Stone, the intelligence assessments have not really changed, unquote.
So if you're just joining American history already in progress, here's a quick history of Donald Trump and Iran as told through interpretive dance. No, as told through tweets from the before time. This is Donald Trump, November 29th, 2011. In order to get elected, Barack Obama will start a war with Iran.
Donald Trump, October 9th, 2012. Now that Obama's poll numbers are in tailspin, watch for him to launch a strike in Libya or Iran. He is desperate.
Donald Trump, later in October, on the 22nd in 2012, don't let Obama play the Iran card in order to start a war, in order to get elected. Be careful, Republicans.
Donald Trump, September 16th, 2023. 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I predict that President Obama will at some point attack Iran in order to save face! Exclamation point.
Wow.
Do you realize how much more coherent these tweets are than anything he writes today?
A couple of exclamation points here and there. No all caps.
No all caps.
And, they sound like a person talking, a dumb person, a really
dumb person, but
vicious, envious asshole. But
yeah.
Donald Trump, September 25th, 2013. Remember what I previously said. Obama will someday attack Iran in order to show how tough he is.
And Donald Trump, November 10th, 2013. Remember that I predicted a long time ago. This is like, he has time. I am really stunned by this.
Yes, he remembers things. He remembers very specific
and
things.
He's putting things in time order.
Right.
And it's organized, and he's, hailing back to things he said before.
Right.
Remember that I predicted a long time ago that President Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly. Not skilled! Exclamation point.
And what happened next? Well, what happened next was the Obama administration began doing diplomacy. That's a big word. It's a big liberal word. So diplomacy and negotiating what would become the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, or as it came to be known, the Iran nuclear deal. And how did Senate Republicans react to Barack Obama, the black president from Chicago, the Democrat from Chicago, doing diplomacy to bring Iran's nuclear threat down to as close to zero as possible? From Daily Kos, Tuesday, March 10th, 2015. Senator Tom Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, is learning what it looks like when a story doesn't go your way. Basically, it looks like one newspaper having a screaming headline calling you and the people you've gotten to sign your open letter to Iran traitors. A hashtag 47 traitors trending on Twitter, and a Bloomberg headline that, quote, Tom Cotton says Republicans are not traitors for letter to Iran, unquote.
We're really not.
They're not traitors. They're cutting.
They were traitors.
They were traitors.
Narrator. They were traitors.
They were traitors, trying to cut Barack Obama's legs out from under him as he was trying to negotiate a deal.
And trying to negotiate with Iran on the back end.
Right.
With a private letter.
Yeah.
Saying, we're just going to undo everything Obama does when he leaves office.
And that's why Tom Cotton lost his Senate race next time, and nobody has ever heard from him. No,
that's
he's
why
still there.
He'll never be able to run for president.
Yeah.
Although it is my mission in life to prevent Tom Cotton from ever becoming president.
Same here.
I got to say.
I got a lot of missions in life. But
I do too, but that is definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm. All right. Continuing from Daily Kos from 2015. Remember 2015? With all that going on, Democrats don't even have to lead the charge calling Cotton to account, but Senate Democrats are piling on. Oh, those mean Senate Democrats. I don't believe the Republican leadership was thinking clearly. Senator Dick Durbin, our senator, retiring soon, said, though many cannot accept it here in this chamber, President Obama is the president of the United States, and he deserves our respect. Oh, my God, rubbing the nose in the fact that Obama's president. How cruel, how awful. Senator Debbie Stabenow called the letter shocking, dangerous, and deeply troubling. When war hangs in the balance, and specifically nuclear war hangs in the balance, should members of the United States Senate be in the position of publicly undermining the United States president, she added. It is shocking, dangerous, and deeply troubling to me that 47 members of this body decided to stand on the side of the Ayatollahs and the most extreme voices in Iran. And even though, let's not forget, for 1 minute, Cotton's letter to Iran was signed by the vast majority of Senate Republicans, including the leadership, there aren't a lot of voices defending it, unquote. But it's out there, and it's real, and he really did that. And fuck him forever.
And there were a lot of senators going, what letter? He signs a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't read his tweets. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Ask me something else. Ask me about Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Ask me about
47
Obamacare.
Republicans signed this letter.
Yep.
Because this junior senator got an idea in his head to go behind the president of the United States.
Yeah.
If a Democrat, this is one of the biggest if a Democrat did it.
Yeah. Well, at least a major newspaper didn't invite him to write an op-ed. Oh, wait a minute. They did.
They did. They totally did.
New York fucking Times did.
Yep.
All right.
Then, on July 14th, 2015, the Obama administration signed the JCPOA, and Republicans immediately began screaming about it, declaring it a failure, and calling Obama a terrorist, which was nothing new.
No.
Meanwhile, and this is really important, because John Kerry did a great job with this.
He did. He really did.
He really did. He worked so hard, and he really got what we needed from Iran, using our allies. I cannot stress this enough. This wasn't just the United States and Iran. This was our allies as well.
The joint,
it was negotiation. It was diplomacy.
Right.
It was serious people making serious negotiations and agreements.
And took 2 years to do.
2 years. And as a result of that, Iranian uranium refinement and production efforts dropped to zero and stayed at zero. And how do we know that? Because we had inspectors on the ground verifying this in Iran, not flying over, not beaming waves.
Not taking Ahmed Chalabi's word for it.
Right. Not taking Ahmed Chalabi's word for it.
Curveball says
inspectors watching.
Right.
And then guess what happened?
Yeah. And if one of the things that liberals are doing that is just very rude and really not fair is sending around the IAEA bar chart that shows what happened all over the internet. If you'd like to look at the numbers, they're available on the internet. You can look them up yourself. So now we're going to leave this as a kind of a cliffhanger here. We want you to hold that thought about what's going on in 2015 with the Obama administration successfully signing the thing that protects us. It doesn't solve all of our problems, but holds the promise of solving a deeply frightening problem about a nuclear Iran in the Middle East. So hold that thought, because in the interest of understanding the context in which all of this happened, we're going to do a little no fair remembering stuff and talk about the one foreign policy issue that Republicans really, really, really cared about above all others. You might remember it. It was called Benghazi. And lucky for you, Media Matters summarized the Republicans' obsession with Benghazi, so I don't have to read Fox News Benghazi bullshit to you for 2 fucking hours, okay? So you're spared that. So you're welcome.
Because Driftglass would do it.
I absolutely would. I'd stand there on the Senate floor with my copies of Fox News transcripts and read them for 23 and a half hours.
Yeah.
But we don't need to do that because Media Matters has this thing from September 9th, 2014, quote, report Fox's Benghazi obsession by the numbers. Again, throwing those evil numbers in their face. Network aired 1,098 evening segments in the first 20 months after attacks. Fox News evening lineup ran nearly 1,100 segments on the Benghazi attacks and their aftermath in the first 20 months following the attacks. Nearly 500 segments focused on a set of Obama administration talking points used in September of 2012. Interviews. More than 100 linked the attacks to a potential Hillary Clinton 2016 presidential run. And dozens of segments compared the attacks and the administration's response to the Watergate or Iran-Contra scandals, which is hilarious. I love when Republicans say, is this going to be Bush's Katrina? Or is this going to be Obama's Katrina? Comparing something to the Watergate and Iran-Contra scandals allowed us to revisit the Watergate and Iran-Contra scandals. So God bless you guys. Continuing, the network hosted Republican members of Congress to discuss Benghazi nearly 30 times more frequently than Democrats, unquote.
It's important to remember that Fox News really loves 3-syllable, odd words that are not used in everyday conversation. Those are their keynotes for brainwashing their audience.
Uh-huh.
Solyndra, Benghazi, AutoPen
Right.
are exactly the same tool.
Grey Poupon.
Well, Seth Rich was 2 syllables.
Right.
And they had to stop that because they actually had individuals who were going to, sue them.
Yeah, into the ground.
But what were the election computer companies that sued Fox successfully?
Dominion?
One of them successfully. Dominion.
They don't remember that one. Don't remember that one. No, let's not remember that.
Got endless coverage because that was a 3-syllable word that indicated to Fox News' audience Democrats cheated.
Right.
Benghazi, Democrats are evil. AutoPen, Democrats cheated. Democrats are evil. Democrats are bad. And they use these words that are not in everyday conversation that have 3 syllables, and they repeat and repeat and repeat. And it's a brainwashing technique. A slightly exotic word that you won't just hear at the diner.
You mean like death panels?
Death panels.
I would say birth certificate. That sort of goes 4 syllables, but still, it falls in line with the same. Keep it simple. Like you can put it on a stupid hat that they can wear around all day long, and keep them dumb. Keep them repeat. And very importantly, Blue Gal, have a megaphone the size of a planet to just yell it all day. White water all day long, all night long. Yep.
This is not complicated.
No, it's really
simple. And it's what they do. This AutoPen thing was made to order because it's that word over and over again. AutoPen. And then Trump sees it on TV and sends it out to his masses. And you're all there. It's there. All right. So why were they obsessed specifically with Benghazi? Not just because it was a 3-syllable word.
Yeah.
Let's turn now to this infamous clip from Fox News. This is Kevin McCarthy bragging to Sean Hannity.
The question I think you really want to ask me is, how am I going to be different? What are you going to see differently?
I love how you ask my questions, but go ahead. That was one of my questions. Go right ahead.
Well, I knew you'd want to ask it. What you're going to see is a conservative speaker that takes a conservative Congress, that puts a strategy to fight and win. And let me give you one example. Everybody thought Hillary Clinton was unbeatable, right? But we put together a Benghazi special committee, a select committee. What are her numbers today? Her numbers are dropping. Why? Because she's untrustable. But no one would have known any of that had happened had we not thought and made that happen.
Good. I give you credit for that. I give you credit for
and that screwed him up, didn't it?
It did. He couldn't become speaker after there was a speaker vote coming up, and he wasn't going to win. He had to pull his name
because
he said the quiet part out loud.
Not supposed to do that.
All the Benghazi hearings were to lower and tank Hillary Clinton's poll numbers.
And it worked.
And everybody knew it. But for him to say it on Sean's show.
Yeah.
So Common Dreams, June 2022, connects the dots. Quote, nearly 1,100 segments on Benghazi. But of course, Fox News won't air January 6th hearing, unquote.
Yeah.
So everyone remembers Benghazi. We remember it as a triumph. We remember it, Democrats, as a triumph of cynical Republican propaganda using the biggest megaphone in the world.
Absolutely.
Republicans remember it very differently.
Yes, they do.
This is Donald Trump from November 5th, 2012. Quote, Benghazi is bigger than Watergate. Don't let Obama get away with allowing Americans to die. Kick him out of office tomorrow, unquote. Again, I used to complain about the fact that one of my jobs was to read what Donald Trump tweeted the night before. But that was in 2017. And compared to today, his tweets from 2017 make sense.
Right. And this is 2012. And it's a simple syllogism, really. It's not quite there, but it's here's the name of the scandal and how terrible it is. It's bigger than Watergate. You all remember Watergate. This is worse than that. Democrats are worse than Republicans. Second half of the syllogism, who's to blame? Barack Obama. Don't let Barack Obama getting away with allowing Americans to die. Whatever you do, it's Obama's fault. The black guy from Chicago, he did this to you. Third, call to action. What do? Kick him out of office tomorrow. Very simple. The dum-dums understood it, and they acted on it. They couldn't kick him out of office because, he didn't actually break any laws, and he was actually a pretty good president. Way too centrist for my taste. What are you going to do? But that's how they do it. Keep it simple, keep it clear, and give them a target. But how many people do you suppose remember Trump's very own Benghazi?
Your wife does.
My wife does. She was reading it to me out of Wikipedia last night. It was the sexiest thing I'd ever seen.
Well, it's not as sexy as me reading Governing magazine to you.
No, that's true.
Pretty sexy.
That's true, because Governing has a whole bunch of positions you can get into.
Yeah.
Sexual position. I mean, policy.
No,
policy positions. I meant policy positions you can get into.
I know how to turn him on. Let's put it that way. All right, moving on.
I shall read to you now from Governing magazine. Bow, chickie, bow, bow.
About infrastructure.
Yeah. Oh, and workforce development. Oh my God. Stop. They're children present.
Uh-huh.
It happened in Niger in 2017. This is from Salon, June 6, 2019. Quote, Trump dodges his own Benghazi. It's pretty clear, right? Pentagon quietly closes investigation into Niger ambush 2 years after 4 U.S. soldiers were killed in Niger. Republicans have swept the whole affair into oblivion.
This is also known as the Tongo ambush.
Yep.
Based on the region where it was. If you need to Google it, that's what it is.
Yeah, and you won't find it easily. It's not Berry, but it's not Benghazi.
Yeah,
by a long shot.
Benghazi. No.
Going back to Salon, after a U.S. consulate in Benghazi was attacked and 4 Americans were murdered in 2012, the Republican-led House of Representatives ordered 8 congressional investigations, including a special select committee whose 2-year, $7 million probe lasted longer than the main Watergate investigation. But after 4 American soldiers were ambushed and killed in neighboring Niger 5 years later, House Republicans opened no such investigations. Nearly 2 years after the attack, the Pentagon has quietly closed its probe into the incident and declined to discipline any military commanders who ordered the troops into a danger zone with no plan and no backup. The Niger ambush was the largest loss of American lives in combat in Africa since the 1993 Black Hawk Down incident in Somalia. But what looked to be a major scandal for the new Trump administration was successfully masked by what some House Democrats call a coordinated cover-up. In the initial aftermath of the attack, the Pentagon only confirmed that 3 U.S. service members had been killed and 2 more wounded in the incident. The Department of Defense withheld information about a 4th soldier who'd gone missing during the ambush until his remains were found by Nigerian forces roughly 48 hours after the ambush. The White House did not publicly address the death of the 4 Green Berets until 12 days later. When the final coffin carrying one of the 4 soldiers arrived at Dover Air Force Base, President Trump was playing golf at one of his private clubs with Lindsey Graham. When pressed about his failure to call the soldiers' grieving families, he said he would, at some point during the period of time, call the parents. And then he falsely claimed that his predecessors had never made calls to the families of fallen soldiers. What a sack of shit. Absolute sack of shit. After Trump finally called Maisha Johnson, the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, who died in the ambush, she reported he could not remember her husband's name. Not a single prominent member of the Republican Party ever criticized Trump's handling of the entire debacle, unquote.
And let me be clear about this. I think when American soldiers die in an ambush, whether it's in Benghazi or in Niger, there should be a hearing about it.
Of course there should be.
We should learn something from that. The military should learn something, and they owe it to the taxpayers who pay their salaries to explain what we've learned from this, how we can prevent it from happening again, what were the failings. And these are American soldiers dying. These are American interests. The ambassador in Benghazi died of smoke inhalation. Okay. Mm-hmm. We should have had an investigation. There were not 1,100 news stories about Niger on MSNBC. There was one, Rachel Maddow did one, and Fox went to town with it. How dare Rachel Maddow question the Pentagon? She's not qualified. So, yeah.
Well, and speaking of ambushes and soldiers dying,
Yeah.
let's not forget that during the Reagan administration, the Beirut's barracks were bombed,
Yeah.
and something like I'm looking here, 241 American servicemen died,
Mm-hmm.
220 Marines, 18 Navy, and 3 Army. And you know what? Nobody impeached Reagan.
Yeah.
Nobody called for his impeachment, as far as I recall. There were investigations because this should never, ever be allowed to happen again. So people, I believe, responsibly investigated what had gone wrong, how do we fix it, and what can we do to prevent it from happening in the future. And that's what Hillary Clinton said during the 11 hours she was being grilled over this, which was, it doesn't matter to me who did this. It matters to me that this never happened again.
Mm-hmm.
She said, whatever the cause was, who cares at this point? Let's find out what went wrong and fix it. That's what a responsible Congress would have done. But even by that time, Republican congressmen had become degenerate liars, and they'd all turned into Newt Gingrich. They'd all become this vampire who feeds off of tragedy and blames Democrats for doing it. And here's a fun fact. One of the douchebags leading the Benghazi witch hunt, whose committee interviewed Hillary Clinton for 11 fucking hours on live TV, was Trey Gowdy. Remember that? Yeah. He held only behind closed door classified hearings on Niger. Yep. Isn't that special? Isn't that fucking special?
He took the Pentagon guys behind closed doors, said this is classified, and no cameras.
Yeah. Yep. Because it wasn't. He couldn't make a witch hunt out of it because it was Republican president.
Because Trump was president.
Yeah. Because Republican bases really are reprogrammable. Given enough lead time, conservative media can literally manufacture public opinion to order. Black is white, up is down, war is peace. You know the rest. Ignorance is strength. And this is all within their power to do, and they do it all the time.
Yep. And so from the New York fucking Times, May 8th, 2018, quote, Trump abandons Iran nuclear deal he long scorned. President Trump declared on Tuesday that he was withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal, unraveling the signature foreign policy achievement of his predecessor, Barack Obama, isolating the United States from its Western allies, and sowing uncertainty before a risky nuclear negotiation with North Korea. The decision, while long anticipated and widely telegraphed, leaves the 2015 agreement reached by 7 countries after more than 2 years of grueling negotiations in tatters, unquote. After which Iranian uranium production and refinement skyrockets.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing to notice is that with all these stories, Trump's deranged shrieking about Obama attacking Iran, or he's going to attack Iran, or his polls and numbers are down, and he's going to do war with Iran. And then the counterpoint of Trump's deranged shrieking about Obama selling us out to Iran, doing too many negotiations with Iran, the Republican Benghazi witch hunt, and the Niger cover-up, everything in the headlines last week and this week. The through line has remained constant, a window into just how reprogrammable Republican voters really are.
We all have to get used to that fact. It's an ugly thing to get used to.
And I've changed. I mean, my opinion of Republican voters has really evolved from they're brainwashed and they don't know what they're doing because they just drink from the Fox News toilet all day to no, they're complicit liars with Fox. Mm-hmm. And they go along with it and like being lied to because they want to own the libs. And they see this as a game they can win.
Because when we approach them with, good intentions and say, but don't you understand? Why are you, this is such hypocrisy. You're lying to us. They laugh about it. Fuck you. Got you to cry. Got you to care. That's the game. And the only thing you can do to win the game is take the game away from them.
Well, and then they depend on us to preserve their Social Security and Medicare.
Good luck with that. Don't make me president, because that would not happen. My motto going into the White House would be, William Tecumseh Sherman didn't do damn near enough to eradicate the roots of the Confederacy. And now those roots have grown back and they're running the country, and we need to pare them back a great deal to the point where they can't do us any harm for at least the next 100 years. Anyway, as we mentioned last week, When Trump went back on his mass deportation promise, he kicked over that MAGA hornet's nest. He kicked it so hard that he tacoed and reversed himself. And then he re-reversed himself, which with Trump is kind of always the point. You kick up so much debris, so much dust, tell so many lies that somewhere in the maelstrom, the dum-dums can find something to hang on to so they can go on worshiping the dear leader. And this week, Trump broke the other ironclad promise he made to the dum-dums. No foreign wars ever. No way, no how, never going to happen. And at the moment, they are thrashing around like striped bass who suddenly realize they've swallowed the goddamn hook. Many of them are crying bitter tears, Blue Gal. So very sad.
Aww.
So sad.
Aww.
For example, Joe Rogan's pal, David Smith, told his 700,000 followers on Twitter, quote, Donald Trump has now launched an illegal war of aggression against Iran. The risk of an absolute catastrophe is very high, and the benefits are non-existent. Worst of all, he did it on behalf of a foreign government against a country who posed no threat to us. Unquote. Wah, wah.
Yep. Marjorie Taylor Greene is furious, but carefully avoided blaming Donald Trump for the thing that Donald Trump did. Instead, she said the Iran bombing was, quote, a complete bait and switch to please the neocons, warmongers, military-industrial complex contracts, and neocon TV personalities that MAGA hates and who were never Trumpers, unquote. Then she went out of her way to insist that, quote, contrary to what brainwashed Democrat boomers think and protest about, Trump is not a king, MAGA is not a cult, and I can and do have my own opinion.
Yeah.
Unquote.
Except for the obvious fact that MAGA is a cult.
Yeah.
And they treat Trump like Zeus, like a god king.
Yeah.
And that Marjorie Taylor Greene's opinions are found by picking through picking the corn out of Donald Trump's shit. That's where she gets her opinions from.
Yep.
Meanwhile, us Democratic boomers noticed that over on MSNBC, Joe Scarborough had the deflectors cranked all the way up. This is from Mediaite. Quote, MSNBC's Joe Scarborough defends Trump over strikes on Iran. Hillary Clinton would have done the same thing, unquote, which is bullshit. She never would have ripped up the JCPOA treaty, which is what kicked off this crisis in the first goddamn place.
Right. She would have still had inspectors on the ground in Iran making sure that they were not refining uranium.
But that's not the story that Scarborough wants Trump to hear him saying.
Yeah.
Because Scarborough, well, he's dead to me. He's been dead to me for 20 years, but a lot of people have caught up with the fact that you cannot trust Joe Scarborough. And
absolutely not.
I have not watched him since he made that little sojourn down to Mar-a-Lago.
Me neither.
Gone, but not forgotten.
I have not very much at all watched MSNBC because they still have him as an employee.
Yeah. Why would I do that?
Yeah. Yep.
And as happens in all these cases, they now have the conservative media has the even liberal Joe Scarborough, even MSNBC's Joe Scarborough to talk about. So, spilling blood in the water, the New York Post, the Daily Caller, and Fox News all ran with the Scarborough bullshit. J.D. Vance explained to the MAGA dum-dums that the war is different from all the other wars because all those other presidents, see Blue Gal, were stupid presidents. But Trump is smart, and Trump deserves respect.
I can handle things. I'm smart. Not like everybody says. Like dumb, I'm smart, and I want respect.
And a lot of MAGA dum-dums are finding their way back to worshiping the dear leader by explaining that Donald Trump isn't starting a war. He finished it because he totally and completely destroyed Iran as a nuclear threat. Except he didn't. And he brokered the greatest ceasefire in all of history, Driftglass, which will last forever. All praise to him, except Trump's a loud, stupid liar. His quote-unquote ceasefire was nothing more than him yelling at Israel over his shitty social media app. This just makes me roll my eyes so hard into my head that it hurts. Ordering Israeli pilots to turn their planes around via Truth Social. This is from Newsweek, quote, President Donald Trump said Israeli jets had turned back from their planned strikes on Iran and that a ceasefire remains in effect. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his Air Force struck a radar station near Tehran, but after speaking with Trump, refrained from carrying out further attacks. Trump sharply criticized Israel for preparing a heavy retaliation against a ceasefire violation by Iran that he said involved a single rocket missing its target. Israel, all caps, is not going to attack Iran. Trump posted to his Truth Social platform on Tuesday morning. All planes will turn around and head home, while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. He typed that.
He did.
Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect! ! Unquote.
2 hours later.
Israel defies Trump's ceasefire plan, launches more missiles at Iran. And this is from the India Times. Quote, U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday assured that Israel is not going to attack Iran after both nations violated ceasefire terms by carrying out attacks against each other after an early Tuesday deadline to stop hostilities. However, Israel defied Trump's ceasefire plan minutes after his remarks came as Iran reported explosions in the north, unquote. And then
we basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
All of this while other MAGA dum-dums are just lost forever. Whatever Trump does is automatically the greatest thing ever and straight from Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Because Israel.
Right.
And if we don't do exactly what Bibi Netanyahu says, I'm laughing because evangelicals want Bibi Netanyahu to convert to Christianity or burn forever in a fiery hell.
Right. You can't have the second coming.
At the same time, we have to obey everything he does because Scripture.
Well, we have to because all the Jews in the world have to go back to Israel so that we can have the second coming, so that we can have the rapture and get the hell out of here. And we are basing a whole big slice of U.S. foreign policy on these fucking lunatics.
On these absolute lunatics. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And their religion.
Uh-huh. And honestly, if I'm at the other end of this and saying, well, wait a minute, we're going to burn in hell someday. But meanwhile, you'll give us anything we want as long as...
that's what I was telling you the other day. I think I was talking about this on Bob Cesca, that Israeli voters think American evangelicals are crazy, but they'll take their money.
Sure. I would. Fuck yeah. Yeah, why wouldn't I? You're going to give me everything I ask for in exchange for some non-existent thing that's never going to happen based on my scripture that you don't seem to understand? Cool. Yeah. That's great. Just make the check out to me personally, and God bless you, and go with God.
Well, and this is why if Driftglass were president, he'd be cleaning out some evangelical churches and purging them of pedophiles.
I would be doing a lot of things. There'd be a whole lot of taxes being raised from certain churches, a whole lot of property being seized from certain churches, a whole lot of people working in churches who I think their time would be better spent picking vegetables or cleaning out bedpans or other things. There's a lot of very good people in church. There's a lot of decent, wonderful people in religion, people we both know who are people of faith. But the evangelical right-wing Christians are one of the worst things that ever happened to theology and the worst thing that ever happened to American politics.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and particularly American foreign policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's really happening in Iran?
That's why people are tuning in, Blue Gal. People are tuning in for us to tell them what the hell's really going on.
To find out what's happening in Iran. We don't know.
We don't know.
We might never know.
Yeah.
And everything we thought we knew as of this recording might very well be completely upside down by the time you hear it. And Trump might tweet something or Truth Social something that contradicts what he Truth Socialed 2 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because typical to every moment in every moment of every Trump administration, everything is chaos and incompetence. All we can know for sure is that Trump has done something incredibly dangerous and impulsive based on his ego, and that the Trump White House is staffed with goons and hacks and buttlickers who lie constantly about everything without fear of consequences because Fox.
Because Fox News. Mm-hmm. And hate radio before them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just for fun, we're going to take a long trip into the past. And we're going to do a super duper no fair remembering stuff. We're going to go back to the 1st century AD. And we're also going to go back to 1976 because, as my wife reminded me,
we're going to go back 49 years ago. This is the 50th anniversary next year of this show, right?
And I love this show. It's one of the best things that BBC ever did. Over the last couple of weeks, we binged the 1976 BBC series I, Claudius.
Yep, BBC series. Yeah.
The Beebs, man. Starring Derek Jacobi, Brian Blessed, John Hurt. This was John Hurt's first big role. It made him a star.
International star, yeah. Yeah.
And for you fans of the original Dune, it has Sean Phillips, who played the Reverend Mother Gaius Moam in the original 1980s Dune. She's amazing in this as Livia. John Rhys Davies, who you know from everything. Captain Picard himself, Patrick Stewart is in this, and Manimal himself. My wife's a big fan. Simon McCormick.
I never missed a Manimal.
You never did. You've told me that on our first date.
Yeah, but it was just because I knew it was going to be canceled so fast. I wanted to contain that.
You wanted to be that person who saw every episode. I wanted to be
the person who never missed a Manimal, and I knew it would be canceled after 6 weeks, and it was.
Well, and it's Simon McCorkindale, who I've never seen in anything other than your memory of Manimal.
Other than Claudius and Manimal. Yeah. That's it.
It's a hell of a resume. I didn't look him up, so I'm probably being unjust to him, but that's a hell of an IMDb. Claudius and Manimal. It was directed by Herbert Wise, and it was adapted from 2 novels by Robert Graves. One is called I, Claudius, obviously, and one is called Claudius the God. Mm-hmm. And if you've never seen it, shame on you. You can stream it over...
Acorn,
I think.
You can stream it on Acorn.
We have the DVDs, which are now...
We had to get the DVDs.
Which are now deductible thanks to this conversation. So
that's true.
Good for us. And it's in case you've never seen it, it's the life and times of Tiberius, Claudius, Caesar, Augustus, Germanicus, which is one guy's name, because that's the way they named people back then. He was Rome's 4th emperor, and he ruled from AD 41 to AD 54. And although the narrative itself is largely fictionalized, the dialogue and so forth, most of the events depicted are drawn from actual historical accounts of the same time period by 2 Roman historians. I can't pronounce this guy's first name, so I'm going to say Suetonius and Tacitus. Yeah, I think you all might know Tacitus. So the rises and falls in people's fortunes and things that happened like that, all true. The betrayals, the assassination, the purges, the orgies, all of those actually happened. And it's wild they showed this shit on the BBC in 1976, complete with a lot of nudity.
A lot of
tops and bottoms were seen on this show. I thought, got a little Game of Thrones action going there, guys. Way to go. And as we watched it, we kept looking at each other and shaking our heads, because this series has 13 episodes and they're all about an hour long. And time after time, there were scenes that just could have been ripped straight from today's headlines. I swear to God.
I'm sorry, I have to correct you, Drift Glass. It's 12 episodes.
I apologize. It's 12 episodes and the special director's documentary that we watched as the 13th episode.
Yep.
And the 13th episode is known in our house as the Judas episode. Anyway, in this show, Herod, who an actual historical character, which I'm sure you all know, but actually did have a lot of influence over Roman politicians and emperors who were good friends with them. Herod's saying that everyone believes Caligula's madness can't possibly last. Sure, he's crazy, but it'll pass, and either he'll die or he'll get better. But he can't just stay this crazy. And Antonia, furious that all the men who have the power to stop Caligula are, quote, a pack of shameless cowards.
Yeah.
There's Claudius is rejoicing that Caligula has finally gotten so goddamn crazy that obviously the Senate would remove him from power and restore his beloved Roman Republic.
He wants to see you. He's become a god. Oh, you're a god, too. We're not.
A god? Which one?
He thinks he's Zeus.
It sounds bad for us mortals.
Oh, perhaps not. When he decides to announce his divinity, they'll all see he's mad. They'll lock him up. We'll have the Republic back. My friend, this could be the best thing that ever happened to us.
But you know what? It turned out the Senate was afraid of the MAGA mob.
Sooner or later, a man was bound to be reborn a god in our very midst. I think we should count ourselves fortunate to be living at this time. Gentlemen, posterity will envy us.
Let the Senate vote him supreme power, and let us cry, Rome is saved! Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar!
And the most heartbreaking part, and the part we really talked about to some length at the end, was when Claudius's grand plan for restoring the Roman Republic fails. Because it had been too long since the Republic, and younger generations didn't know anything other than Claudius's boring rule.
Yeah.
He said that he'd been such a good leader that he had dulled the sword of tyranny, the blade of tyranny. And so tyranny didn't feel so bad anymore because he was good at it and fair, reasonably fair. And so no one believed in the Republic anymore except him. And he's chided for like, look, old man, nobody wants the Republic back except you.
Yeah. I mean, under Claudius, the streets weren't poured with blood, weren't running with blood. He did a lot of infrastructure.
Yep, he did.
And
he put
the
down,
money supply remained stable.
He stabilized the money supply. He conquered
Britain. Yep.
Yeah. And he was,
got those Brits to behave.
And when they came down to make supplication to him, he didn't kill them.
No, exactly.
He gave the leader of them a pension and let them live in Rome, which, for that time and place was incredibly generous and sort of he sort of bought them off.
He did. But he wouldn't let them go home and fight him again.
Right.
He said, you got to stay here in the city, but you can stay in beautiful Rome and live and be a Briton inside Rome, and I'm not going to cut your head off.
Right. And I'll pay you a pension. We'll find your people places to live. We have plenty of land because we've conquered the known world. But the point is, and this is the part where we sat down and went, Jesus, this is kind of timely and kind of depressing, is the reason, because all throughout the series, all 12 episodes, my wife is right, 12 episodes, Claudius is constantly talking about the Republic, got to get the Republic back. And his friends, people he grew up with as children, were like, yeah, that Republic is pretty cool. And one after another, they died.
Yep.
And one after another, they got discredited. And one after another, they kept saying, "Oh, that's that crazy idea of yours of bringing the Republic back. That's no. That's." And people who talk,
Rome does better as a dictatorship, Claudius. And he's like, no, I want the Senate to run things.
Yeah. And people who talked about the Republic being a good thing were considered traitors.
Right.
At some point, how dare you talk about that? But Claudius, being a fool, having a stutter, and having a club foot, was considered harmless. Yeah. He could have these crazy ideas, and no one's going to take him seriously because what is he going to do? Be the emperor someday? That's nuts. Anyway, spoiler, by the way, the Roman Republic is not restored, and Claudius dies. So sorry to do that, guys, but I spoiled it for you. But
we don't get to see Nero fiddle while Rome burns.
No,
we don't get to see that.
But we get to see Nero and his mom rooting through Claudius's effects after they've killed him, after she's poisoned him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But the part that really kind of broke our hearts a little bit was he had a plan to restore the Republic. He wanted to do it, but democracy, the republicanism, takes practice. You got to do it every day. You got to get out of bed and be a democracy every day. It's a muscle. And if you don't use it, it atrophies. And
you have to have a competent Senate to do it. You have to have that body capable of governing and not just saying Hail Caesar every day and collecting the money.
And you have to have a populace that thinks that's a good thing.
Right.
That thinks
governing is a skill.
Right. And needs
which
to be done.
We have Republican voters that do not understand that. No. We have Democratic voters that don't understand that too. But Republican voters clearly vote for people who shit talk.
Right. And since democracy it's a habit. It's a habit of mind. It's a whole host of things like civic virtues and what you have to do to be a good person and voting and jury duty and the rule of law and due process and on and on and on, and cooperating with each other and compromising with each other and listening to the other side and reaching a fair conclusion and not letting your propaganda run amok so that you end up murdering each other. And so what happened in the end was it had been so long since they practiced as a republic, nobody cared anymore. Things were pretty good under the tyrants. Things did okay. That's all they knew. And we are rapidly approaching a point where we are falling out of the habit of being a democracy.
Yeah.
We still have people who want a democracy and are in favor of it and jump up and down and demand it. But those people were outvoted by people who cared about egg prices and brown people from Mexico.
Yeah.
Because that's where the real problem was.
And needed to do more research about Kamala Harris, too.
Right. And so we cared about process. There are good arguments to be made for policies that I disagree with. Republicans are not making those arguments.
No.
Republicans just want a strong man to kick ass, blow shit up, and throw people out of the country. Right. And whatever he wants to do to get there, and whatever he wants as a token of their esteem, taking bribes and whatnot, is fine with them. They're cool with the corruption. They don't give a shit about free speech.
They're cool with the crypto.
They have shredded the Constitution, and they've been doing it for decades. Not just the last 10 years. They've been doing it for a very long time. And for a significant percentage of the population of this country, they don't want a democracy back. They do not want a republic back. They want a dictator. They want someone who's approved by Jesus and who will hurt the people they hate and give them shit. And that's all they care about. And we have to sort of face the fact that those people are committed to the idea of a white nationalist dictatorship the same way we are committed to democracy and Republican ideals.
You have to do News Roundup now, Driftglass.
Ah, damn it. Fine. All right. Let's start at the top, shall we, Blue Gal? After tossing a grenade into the incredibly volatile Middle East, Donald Trump revealed his plan to keep oil prices from spiking. Because remember, he promised to bring them down, 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 down. And his plan is yelling at the Department of Energy. This is literally a social media blurt of his, quote, to the Department of Energy, drill, baby, drill. And I mean now, exclamation point, all caps, crazy talk, crazy old man talk, unquote. Fun fact, the Department of Energy has nothing whatsoever to do with oil drilling at all. That's the Department of the Interior, not Energy, dum-dum. Also, part of his plan is screaming in all caps on Truth Social, quote, everyone keep oil prices down. I'm watching. You're playing right into the hands of the enemy, unquote. All caps again, because, that's how free markets work, Blue Gal.
Yeah, that's very Chinese of him.
Yeah, if you just shout at eggs, there'll be more of them and they'll be cheaper. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. This is from CNN, quote, Trump called for regime change in Iran, posting on social media, quote, why wouldn't there be a regime change, unquote. The comment directly contradicts his own administration's repeated claims that the U.S. wasn't trying to overthrow Iran's government.
Yeah.
That's from Hegseth. That's from Little Marco. Mm-hmm. And he just undercuts them every time.
And they just pivot. And nobody ever asks them any questions because they're never in front of people who will ask them
They
questions.
wish he would go golfing again.
Yeah. From MSNBC, under a new law signed by Governor Greg Abbott and in defiance of last week's Fifth Circuit Court ruling, Texas will now require all public school classrooms to display the Ten Commandments. The law mandates a specific English version be posted in every classroom, despite a 1980 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that struck down a similar Kentucky law as unconstitutional. I wouldn't mind if they posted them in archaic Hebrew or Aramaic.
Aramaic.
Because nobody can read that shit. But got to be in English. MSNBC.
Oh, no, it's got to be in English, and it's got to be the Protestant Baptist Bible version, not the Catholic version.
Right.
Because they are different.
Well, you can't let the papists into the classroom to
corrupt the kids. The papists don't diminish the commandment that the Baptists have on graven images. Yeah.
Ah, I see. Well, that's why I have.
Which makes sense. It makes sense, but those Romans come back again. That's it, right?
Yeah. Well, and this moment of Bible bitch has been brought to you by
the letter C.
The letter C. MSNBC reports, quote, in case this isn't obvious, Texas falls under the jurisdiction of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. The governor ignored the ruling anyway, less than 24 hours after a relevant decision reached the public, unquote.
But hey, wait a minute. Breaking news, defying court orders is what all the cool Trump administration kids are doing these days.
Yes, they are.
The Daily Beast reports, quote, a top Justice Department official left a room full of government lawyers stunned when he said that they might have to say fuck you to court orders blocking deportations, according to a whistleblower. Emil Bove, previously a personal attorney for Trump, unveiled his intention to defy the courts during a closed-door meeting in mid-March. A fired former DOJ attorney wrote in a disclosure obtained by the New York Times. Got that? Mm-hmm. He told a room of government lawyers that they might have to say fuck you to court orders about deportations. Mm-hmm. Shot chaser.
Mm-hmm.
Emil Bove has been appointed by Trump and will have his confirmation hearing to fill a vacancy on the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit tomorrow.
Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar!
And you take this last one, Blue Gal.
All right, I'll take this last one. Today, as we're recording on Tuesday, June 24th, today is the third anniversary of the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. To paraphrase my colleague Carolee, my, how time flies in a corrupt oligarchical patriarchy.
Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar!
Feel free to write to both of us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, postal unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
Please also share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to. And thank you all so very much for doing that.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, this week the Internet Kitties revealed their plans for getting more treats by shouting in all caps on social media, "Give us more treats, now, now, now. We're watching."
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.